And I promised since day one that I was going nowhere until every child had the option of being back in school 5 full days. I'm still standing by that. I'm not going anywhere. But I'm going to add to that. Once these children are back in school 5 full days, I'm going to make sure that every single one of you is held accountable. We're watching, and we're looking really, really closely at each of you. And you will be held accountable for what has happened to these children, because this will never happen again in this county. Never.
I think what they're doing to our kids is absolutely criminal. The science is undisputed. It's been in for a long time. We've known that the kids have little to no vulnerability to this disease, and to continue to hide behind this as a way to keep the schools locked down is shameful. It's shameful, and it's not putting our kids first.
We were supposed to be in court at 2 p.m. right about now. As many know, there was a lawsuit that was filed against 16 local school districts, as well as County Executive Adam Bello and Dr. Michael Mendoza. We were going to be gathering here today to rally in support of the 14 plaintiffs listed on that lawsuit, as well as hundreds, if not thousands, of other families who also were looking for some relief regarding the situation with the reopening of schools. I'm going to cut myself short and hand the microphone over to Attorney Carl Schwartz, who represents those families here in Monroe County in our legal actions, to share some news with the folks that are here today, which hopefully the community will learn about, and give an update as to where our case stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you everybody for coming out and praying for the weather. I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on our litigation, starting with how long ago parents in our team started working on this litigation. Dr. Baker is our expert witness. He's Harvard trained. We're going to hear from him a little bit later as to the medical perspective and the science behind getting our kids back to school. I can tell you that I have worked with Dr. Baker and Attorney Hummel and Christina and other members of the team for many hours a week, starting back in mid-August of last year. We filed our first lawsuit for Monroe County as the school year was starting. We did not like the fact that we were not getting straight answers to our questions about kids being back to school. And so we filed the first lawsuit, and it was against Governor Cuomo, and it was against Commissioner Zucker down in Albany as the initial lawsuit went. Of course, lawsuits take some time. We understand that. Some dates were set, and before we arrived at those dates, there started to be requests for adjournments of the matter from the Attorney General's attorneys, and things started to change a little bit as we filed more and more lawsuits all across the state of New York. In late November, we ended up having court appearances both for the Onondaga case and for the Long Island cases, where judges told Governor Cuomo that he needed to start negotiating or he risked having his emergency powers jeopardized by the litigation. As a result of that, and concurrently with the Attorney General's office trying to consolidate all the cases we had filed, the case that we had initially filed in Monroe County was not able to proceed while the case was being argued on the consolidation. Okay, so it gets a little confusing here. Let me suffice it to say this. We had Judge Anne-Marie Taddeo assigned to the first case here in Monroe County. At some point, she was no longer on the file, and we had Judge William Taylor on it, following Judge Dan Doyle having been assigned, and then for reasons unknown to us, replaced by Judge Taylor. Okay, so there's been a musical chairs of judges looking at the lawsuits that I've filed. And we argued the motion to consolidate these cases right before the holidays and Christmas time, and then got a response the first business day of January, where Judge Taylor denied the Attorney General's motion to consolidate, which then would allow all of the other litigation to go forward. In the meantime, we had seen a change in the status of Governor Cuomo's approach to getting kids back to school. In fact, the second week of December, he had a press release where he was very specific about the fact that the science was in and that our children were most safe in school and that they needed to be in school. And he was leaving it to local leadership to figure out how they were going to make that happen, but again reiterated in the press release again that the children really need to be back to school. Okay? So Monroe County's parents and the leadership team for ROC, for Educational Freedom, decided that because Governor Cuomo was now no longer prohibiting the kids from being in school, we should file yet another lawsuit that's updated that was not against the governor, it's not against the Albany people, but it was against the locals. Because in all the meetings that Dr. Baker and other members of our leadership team and parents across Monroe County were having with superintendents, they were being told that it was Dr. Mendoza that was not allowing us to get kids back to school. Dr. Mendoza is trying to create a more restrictive environment than is being required by Albany itself. To be quite straightforward, Albany says you have to be 6 feet apart or wearing a mask, and you can use barriers to reduce that to 3 feet and get the kids back to school. It's very, very specific. There's no magic here, right? There's no confusion in any of this. That is the rule out of Albany. So what are we hearing from the local superintendents? Well, Dr. Mendoza says we can't do it. We've met with him, we've submitted our plan, he's denied the plan, we can't do it. And so well, if that's the case, I said to the team of parents, it's easy for me legally, we'll just sue them all, right? Let's get Dr. Mendoza, and let's get Adam Bello, and let's get all the superintendents that aren't figuring out how to do their jobs in one lawsuit. And then we'll just sit back and just see what happens, right? So what happened? We gave the schools, by the way, an opportunity to get this right before we filed the lawsuit. I sent an email on Christmas Eve to all the superintendents telling them that we were giving them until January 8th to formulate a plan for full in-learning, in-school education by the 1st of February. Well, guess what? They did not meet their January 8th deadline, so we met with a whole lot of parents on January 8th and got their signatures, and within about 10 days after that, filed the updated lawsuit. Judge Taylor was assigned to that case. He signed the order to show cause, which essentially gave the attorneys for the school districts and for the county the whole month of February and up through essentially Monday of last week, a week ago. And so we've been waiting all this time, knowing that once the 8th hit, Monday the 8th, we were going to be scrambling to make sure we could meet our deadline, which was to respond to their answer by Monday of this week, okay? So we did all that. We've done all that work, and we have waited. We have waited while parents have seen their children suffering. I want to tell you that when we took down the statements on January 8th, it took the better part of a day to get the statements, the things I heard were so upsetting, I couldn't even believe it. I had one mom whose daughter was being admitted to the psych ward while we were putting together the statement for her to sign. And she was on the verge of just completely breaking down. And I asked if she wanted to just do this at a later time and go, you know, be with her husband and be with her daughter going into the psych ward. And she said, no. She goes, our kids don't have another minute to wait. This lawsuit has got to go forward. We've got to get our kids back to school. They don't have a minute to wait. Every minute of every hour, of every day, of every week, of every month matters. Our kids are in trouble. They are academically failing. Their futures have been compromised by not being in school. You know, for all those moments where the light goes on for a student and they get it, and then you see them take off in life and go succeed, and it's thrilling if you're the educator, it's thrilling if you're the mom or the dad, it's a blood rush if you're the student. We're watching the opposite occurring right here. We're watching that light being snuffed out. For what reason? For what reason do you think? What do you think, right? Right?
Politics.
So we've had it, right? So we're finally so excited we made it to this week because we've got court. It's going to be Thursday at 2 o'clock. And I was in trial yesterday, and just as I was leaving for the trial, got an email saying the judge wants a conference with the lawyers. And I send back an email saying, I can't, I'm in trial. I just cannot have a conference during this time in the afternoon. And so then I went off to court and did my trial, came back a little after 5 o'clock, and found an email from the judge that he had recused himself from the case and that they're going to have to appoint another judge and get us another court date. Okay? So we've waited how long? How long? Now I've sent a request to the judge respectfully asking why he had to recuse himself. As of 11:30 when I left Penn Yan to come here, I had not gotten a response. But I tell you, I am not pleased with all the delays. And to go into the substance of the answers on this lawsuit, after hearing superintendent after superintendent telling the team that it was Dr. Mendoza, we were excited to get Mendoza's answer. It's like, here's our opportunity, right? What is this man going to say who's been stopping up Monroe County's kids from getting back to school? You know what Mendoza said in his answer? Nothing. That's exactly right. Mendoza never filed an affidavit asserting an answer. What he did instead is he hid behind the county's attorneys who had submitted an answer saying, Dr. Mendoza, the health department locally, has absolutely no authority whatsoever to make any decisions regarding safety protocols for our children being back to school. You want to believe that? You want to believe that? So if you're wondering who's got more credibility, your superintendent or Mendoza, let's start at the top of the list. Dr. Mendoza is a liar, and he's a coward, and Adam Bello ought to be firing him right now. Our children are suffering because of that man's misdeeds, okay? So let that be clear for the record. So then you go to the next steps. All right, well, what role do the superintendents have in this? I mean, so if this Mendoza doesn't have the authority to act on it, why did we have to wait until a lawsuit was brought and some attorney got an answer where that was said, right? I mean, if you're a superintendent and you make big money, right, isn't your job to get the job done, not give excuses like, well, we're doing our best. You know, this is not your preteen child we're talking about here. This is a superintendent, right? Like, what do these people get paid? Carmen Gamina, right? $216,418. Mike Perro at Pittsburgh, $247,829. $250,000 a year.
That's just their salaries.
Right? And you can't get the job done? You're not getting the kids in school when you're making this kind of money? Who else? Tom Putnam, $213,298. Brett, over at Fairport, $209,074. And not getting the job done. Guess what? When you can't get the job done, what happens? The rest of us. We don't succeed, we get fired, right? So it is time. It is time. Parents, you need to get all over your school districts. Don't take no for an answer, and don't you let these superintendents tell you that they're waiting for something from Albany, because they're not. That is a lie. It couldn't be clearer. And you know, I have the benefit in this particular instance of not being from Monroe County personally. My little boy comes to school up here because of his disability, but I live down in Yates County. And you know, the other day I had a client in my office, and she asked me, she goes, Carl, is anything fun going on, anything exciting going on in your life these days with courts and litigation and all that? I'm like, oh yeah, we got a lot going on. And I told her about the case up here and what we're doing. And she said, there are students that aren't back to school? Are you kidding me? I thought everybody'd been back to school a while ago. Because see, once you get out of these areas, like right here in Monroe County, all of our students are all back to school, okay? So you need to know it's aberrant what's going on here in Monroe County. And I don't know what's going on with the courts. I don't know what's going on with the musical chairs of judges. They need to put a judge on this case that's going to stay on this case. We need a court date that's sooner than later. What child is going to be dead next week that wouldn't have been dead next week if we'd had court at 2 o'clock right now today? It is over. It is time for this nonsense to end. The kids need to be back to school, and you need to not take no for an answer. Pressure, pressure, pressure on your superintendents. At this time, I would like to ask our expert, Dr. Clayton Baker, to give us a word from his medical professional view of what's going on, the science getting our kids back to school. Dr. Baker is Harvard trained, and he has been a loyal and absolutely incredible part of our team ever since mid-August. Dr. Baker.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you all for coming. The school children of Monroe County have been denied their day in court. We have been fighting for one thing and one thing only for the past 10 months, to get the school children in Monroe County back in school full-time where they belong. Today is exactly a year to the day after schools were shut here. And today, a year later, elsewhere, millions of school children across the county and in many other parts of New York State are back in school full-time. Full-time, 5 days a week, no wasted Wednesdays, 5 days a week, all the time. Millions of school children in this country. It is safe. Our schools are safe. It has been shown time and time again across this country that full reopening of schools is safe. I'm a practicing physician. I know COVID-19 is real. I have cared for my patients 100% since the onset of this pandemic. I have lost patients to COVID-19. If anyone tells you that the people here today are COVID deniers, know this. Those people are lying to your face about us. As a physician, I can also tell you with certainty, schools are safe. This has been shown time and time again. The data on schools that have already opened fully overwhelmingly confirms their safety. Local officials have dodged this question repeatedly. When questioned by the Monroe County legislature on the matter, a legislator asked Michael Mendoza how many children have died due to COVID-19 in Monroe County. Mendoza said, "I'm not sure, very, very few." Dr. Mendoza, the correct answer is 0. It's not few, it is 0. It is unconscionable as a physician to believe that another physician would stand there and mislead the public and mislead the county legislature in that matter about a question so important as the life and death of the children of that county he supposedly serves. As a physician, I can also tell you with certainty, schools are safe, and we have data all over the country. I recently spoke with a very courageous and very capable superintendent in Licking County, Ohio, by the name of Dr. Casey Perkins. I found her on CNN. Her school, which has 4,500, or district, excuse me, that has 4,500 students, not a small district, in a large county right outside of Columbus, Ohio, a bigger city than Rochester, has been open since the end of August. 10 of the 12 districts in that county have been fully open since the beginning of the school year. They have done contact tracing. They have done distancing, although they have done less than is required even by the strictures in New York State that Governor Cuomo has insisted upon. They have had to contact trace over 1,000 students in those 10 school districts. How many cases of in-school transmission have they found? Zero. Zero cases. None. Not one. And I will take it further by saying it is not simply a matter of cases. This is a virus. It spreads. To expect zero transmission is unrealistic. However, they have achieved exactly that in Licking County. We have tried to bring information of this sort to the officials of Monroe County. They have ignored us. They have tried to silence us. They have tried to intimidate us. The schools remain closed here not because of safety. I tell you that as a physician who takes care of patients who have and have had COVID. They are closed in Monroe County for political reasons. Political reasons. Every step of the way in our struggle just to get the children of Monroe County back in school, we have met with resistance and opposition at every level of the local government. Their resistance has been characterized by secrecy, deliberate delays, and in many instances, outright dishonesty. This latest action by the court, a last-minute recusal by the judge in the case, as Attorney Carl Schwartz just said, is the last straw. The school children of Monroe County have been denied their day in court now. A new court date with a new judge has not yet been set. Will it be after the school year is over? Will it be after the districts have started some partial reopening plan that serves the teachers' unions and themselves rather than the children? And what will happen when that next court date arrives? Will the children's case be delayed again, or will it be dismissed? Our county executive, Adam Bello, has failed our children, and now he denies he has any authority. Our Commissioner of Health, Michael Mendoza, has woefully failed our children, always prioritizing someone else over them, and now he denies he has any authority. I ask you, members of the press and everyone here, does anyone who has covered COVID in Monroe County believe for 1 second that Michael Mendoza does not have authority over decisions on COVID in Monroe County? He has been on television dozens, if not hundreds of times, telling us what we need to do. And now they hide behind attorneys. They will not even speak out for themselves. And they tell us they have no authority. I want to take one more second and talk about the real other pandemic that's going on here, and that's the pandemic of mental health emergencies among our school children. This cannot be overstated in its importance. Our children are suffering. Our children are being systemically denied a normal childhood, a normal education, normal interaction with their peers, and normal interaction with their teachers. This needs to end. There is no medical reason to not open the schools now and to not open them fully. Our school superintendents and boards of education have sold out our children's needs to the teachers' unions' wishes. And now the courts have failed the children as well. We must not give up. We will not give up. We are not going away. We want one thing and one thing only: the full reopening of Monroe County Public Schools. I ask everyone here today, what are these people asking for? Are we asking for hundreds of millions of dollars? like the money that just flowed into this community? No. We're asking for our children to go back to school. Nothing could be more reasonable. Nothing could make more sense. Nothing could be better medicine, better public policy. It's being done elsewhere in the state. It's being done all over the country. It is not being done here. And the people who are not doing it need to be held accountable. Open our schools. Open them fully. Open them now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. You know, it's amazing. After Dr. Mendoza let his lawyers submit his answer, which was that we have absolutely nothing to do with the safety protocols for getting kids back to school, we found an email from Superintendent Carmen Gomina that was stated very clearly that he was going into a meeting within the hour with Dr. Mendoza about these issues. So the lying with Dr. Mendoza and whatever's going on with these superintendents, whatever this roundabout thing is that they've got going, that needs to be over with. That needs to end now, and we need to insist on it. At this time, I would open up for any questions anybody might have about all of this.
What was the name of that justice that decided to recuse himself in the last hour?
Well, last day, Judge William.
The 11th hour, excuse me.
Yes, Judge William Taylor.
Can you say that loud for the microphone?
It's Judge William Taylor.
Thank you.
William Taylor.
Thank you.
Yep. Other questions?
Is it usual for a judge in the last hour, the last 24 hours, to recuse himself from a case like this? They've already ruled on, or is that a normal practice?
I would say it's unusual because typically a judge gets assigned to a case and finds out that they have a personal relationship that's going to be crosswise with a case or something like that, and then they just recuse. So it's usually done pretty early in the process. That being said, people's names change, which is part of what is difficult for judges or even lawyers with conflicts of interest. Somebody comes in to see you, and they're known by a different name than they used to be, so you only then find out. So I have no idea what the reason is for the recusal, and it could have been something that just literally came up yesterday. I mean, we don't know. I won't know until he either tells us or we may never know.
Do they usually disclose why they would recuse themselves from the case?
Under normal circumstances, they do. There are legal reasons why they don't have to, depending on certain things that might exist for them. And I do not know one way or the other how that's going to go with Judge Taylor in this case.
Could it be a pattern, possibly?
I can't speak to a pattern. That would be something somebody would have to do some research on. Yeah. My role is trying to keep a judge on the case I have pending at the moment, and that has not been easy to do in this county.
Why does Dr. Mendoza participate on the Finger Lakes Reopening Committee if he has no authority in the reopening matter?
That's a great question. Yeah, great question.
Carl, I've got a question from somebody who posted on my wall earlier, and I don't know if you're going to be able to answer it, but I'll ask it. If you had to point to one entity most responsible for keeping the kids out of school buildings, to whom or to which organization would you ascribe the biggest share of the blame?
At the moment, I'd say Dr. Mendoza and then his boss, Adam Bello. Mendoza's an employee. So if Mendoza's lying, he's mischaracterizing and misleading the public and the superintendents, and it's hurting the children of the county. Who does that fall on squarely? That comes back to the Monroe County executive, Adam Bello. I mean, Adam Bello should be firing Mendoza, and people should be taking a good close look at Bello at this point.
A lot of school district superintendents are now saying that they're awaiting state approval for their reopening plans. So they're going over the heads of, at this point, Mendoza and Bello, and saying that they can't open until their plans are approved by the state. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's disingenuous. You take a 1 hour drive away from this spot, like anywhere south, in every single school, they're all open. This is unheard of. I'm telling you, as somebody who lives an hour away from here, this is crazy. You think this is some prehistoric county the way they're treating the kids here. This is ridiculous.
Why would you say the superintendents now, after all of this, are pointing to state approval to approve their reopening plans in Monroe County?
Well, because there's always politics, right? So they got these school teachers unions.
Okay.
And so I'm sure that's in there, and that's why I pointed to how much these people make. Yeah, you got to wrangle with your union, but that's why we pay you.
I have another question about speaking to the transparency of the process and the negotiations with the unions. Are they subject to any open meetings laws? If school business, public business, the reopening of schools is a topic, and the districts, the boards, and the superintendents are meeting with unions, shouldn't the people have a seat at the table to witness that?
I do not know the answer to that, but I think that'd be a great question for every one of the superintendents.
Okay.
You know, what's happening here is if these superintendents don't figure this out now that in the lawsuit we've peeled back Mendoza, right? He's run, he's been steering the ship and then jumps off the last minute, has nothing to do with it. Now, if your superintendents don't get your kids back to school, then the next step is going to be litigation that's going to include boards of members of the boards.
Are any email correspondence or any type of written correspondence between union heads, union leadership, and superintendents and or school board members, would those be open to freedom of information law?
I don't know, but as an attorney, what I do is sometimes I just make requests and see what happens.
Because I'd be interested to know about those negotiations between the unions and our publicly elected officials.
Yep. All right.
I can make one comment on that. I can tell you from the testimony that was given by Dr. Mendoza at the question and answer period with the Monroe County Legislature. He stated that he'd had at least 2 meetings himself with the teachers' unions. He was asked by another legislator, had he had meetings with parents? And he said that he had had meetings with parents in association with that Safe Reopening Task Force. To the very best of my knowledge, he has not had open forums with parents as a whole. Maybe he has, but he did not testify to them that was the case, and I'm certainly not aware of that. So he's definitely met with the teachers' unions privately. I'm not sure that he's ever met publicly with public groups of parents. So if that speaks to transparency, that's the best I can tell you.
All right. Any other questions? We good? Christina.
I just want to thank everyone who continues to come out and support the parents, the students here in Monroe County. Thank you to Carl Schwartz, to Dr. Clayton Baker, and to everyone who's been just so crucial to continuing with this fight. As I said 10 months ago, when I was just a mom who wanted to figure out if school was going to reopen in September or not, we knew this was going to be a marathon. We knew that we were going to need to pace ourselves. But at this point, it's very evident that there is something a lot more going on here in Monroe County. And I promised since day one that I was going nowhere until every child had the option of being back in school 5 full days. I'm still standing by that. I'm not going anywhere, but I'm going to add to that. Once these children are back in school 5 full days, I'm going to make sure that every single one of you is held accountable. We're watching, and we're looking really, really closely at each of you. And you will be held accountable for what has happened to these children, because this will never happen again in this county. Never. So thank you, and again, to anyone who's watching on any of the live streams or anything that's going on here today, get out there, get loud with your superintendents, your boards of education, Bello, Mendoza,
They may not respond to you, but they hear us, they don't like us, and they're running scared. Keep running, because we're coming after you.